His wife passed away a year ago, and since then everything around him had lost its colours. The world had become a monotonous sequence of dull, empty days. He immersed himself in work, attempting to numb the unbearable pain and the relentless guilt for not being able to save her. Yet his thoughts always returned to his son, Zachary. Zachary was just 7 years old. Walter knew the boy was suffering, but he felt helpless to ease his pain. He yearned for support himself, even a simple, kind word, but he couldn't afford to show weakness. He had to stay strong for Zachary. He needed to build a future for his son, but how could he, when his own life felt so devoid of purpose? A gentle knock sounded at the door. "Come in," Walter said wearily, his gaze fixed on a photograph. Mrs. Jones, the long-serving housekeeper, who was more like family, entered the room. She was wise and compassionate, always ready to offer comfort and support. "Mr. Harris, it's time for dinner," she gently reminded him. "I'm not hungry, Mrs. Jones." "But you can't go on like this," she chided softly. "You're not taking care of yourself, and you're not thinking about Zachary either. He misses you, and now he is waiting for you in the dining room." Walter sighed in frustration. He knew she was right, but he felt drained. Still, he rose and made his way to the dining room. Zachary was already seated at the table, his head bowed, shoulders trembling, as if he were holding back tears. "Zachary, what's wrong?" Walter asked softly. The boy looked up, his eyes filled with sadness. "I just miss Mum," he whispered. Walter held his son tightly, knowing that words couldn't ease the pain, but his embrace could convey his love. "I miss her too, Zachary," he whispered. "We need to be strong. We must keep going for her." Zachary clung to his father, tears streaming down his face. Walter gently stroked his son's hair, trying to offer some comfort. The ache in his chest was overwhelming. Just then, Beatrice, their cook of a few months, entered the room. Always quiet and unassuming, she preferred to stay in the background. Yet Walter had observed how Zachary was drawn to her, finding solace in her presence. Beatrice set a bowl of soup before Zachary, her eyes filled with genuine care. "Maybe you could try to eat something," she offered softly. "The soup is still warm." Walter nodded in gratitude, his gaze lowered. After dinner, Zachary asked his father to read him a bedtime story. Despite his weariness, Walter agreed. He went with his son to the bedroom and settled near the boy. Zachary chose his favourite tale, about a courageous prince who vanquished a terrible dragon and saved a beautiful princess. Walter read slowly and expressively, trying to capture the emotions of the characters. Seeing his son's peaceful face, he felt a warmth spread within him. He realized he needed to be there for Zachary, to safeguard his tranquility and protect him from life's challenges. He had to be not just a father, but a friend and guide. As Walter left for his own room, Beatrice quietly entered Zachary's bedroom. "Zachary, are you awake?" she whispered, sitting on the edge of the bed. The boy sat up immediately, his eyes gleaming in the dim light. "Beatrice, will we dance tonight?" he asked. Beatrice smiled. "If you'd like to, then yes, but remember, it's our secret. Your father doesn't need to know, okay?" Zachary nodded solemnly. He didn't want to upset his father, but couldn't resist the allure of dancing. These sessions had become a breath of fresh air in his sheltered world. They silently made their way to the aerobics room, with its floor-to-ceiling mirrors. Beatrice played a rumba on her phone, and the melody filled the air. "Tonight, let's try a couple of new steps," she said. "Follow me. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Zachary diligently mimicked her movements, a bit awkwardly but with sincere effort. Beatrice corrected him with a gentle smile. "Good job, Zachary," she praised. "The key is to listen to the music and move lightly, as if you're floating. With each lesson, Zachary grew more confident. Their dances became a secret tradition, a cosy ritual in the quiet of the night. Day by day, Zachary grew more vibrant and joyful. Even his grades at school began to improve. But he remembered to keep his secret with Beatrice. Whenever his father was near, Zachary would quieten down and act as if he were occupied with something ordinary. He worried that if his father discovered their secret, he would forbid dancing forever, dismissing it as trivial. One evening, when Walter was late from work and Mrs. Jones had gone to her room, and Zachary realized they could extend their dance practice. They were trying out new moves when suddenly the door swung open, and Walter stood in the doorway, his face filled with anger. "What's going on here?" he growled, looking from his son to Beatrice. Zachary froze like a cornered animal. Beatrice stepped forward, shielding the boy. "Mr. Harris, we were just dancing," she said softly. "Dancing?" Walter echoed, stepping into the room. "I said I wouldn't allow Zachary to waste time on nonsense. His priority is to study and get a good education." "Dad," Zachary began. "Quiet!" His father cut him off and turned to Beatrice. "Who gave you the right to engage with my son without my knowledge?" Beatrice looked down, knowing she had disobeyed his orders, but saw that Zachary blossomed through the dance, overcoming his grief, and wasn't going to be silent. "I'm sorry, Mr. Harris," she whispered. "I saw how much he needed it. I wanted to support your son and do what was best for him." "Best for him?" Walter scoffed. "You think dancing is better than anything else he could be doing? It's a waste of time. Zachary needs to focus on something worthwhile." "That's not true, Dad," Zachary interjected. "I've even started doing better in school, and I don't feel as lonely as before." Walter looked at his son, seeing not just fear but pleading and desperation in his eyes. He was angry with Beatrice, but to his surprise, he couldn't deny the positive changes in Zachary. "Zachary, you promised me you'd focus on what's important," Walter said, trying to speak more calmly. "I am," Zachary replied firmly. "I'll try my best, but from now on, dancing is important for me too. It helps me feel happy." Walter turned away, his gaze falling on Beatrice, and he saw not only remorse in her eyes, but also empathy. "I think it's best if you leave, Beatrice," he said, his gaze averted. Beatrice nodded and exited the room quietly, leaving Walter and Zachary alone. Zachary could no longer contain his tears. He rushed to his father and wrapped his arms around him. "Please, Dad, don't make Beatrice go," he begged through sobs. "She's important to me. She's my friend." Walter kneeled and embraced his son tightly. He realized he had been too harsh, even overly so. Later, after putting Zachary to bed and reading him a bedtime story, Walter's thoughts kept returning to Beatrice, to her understanding and silent eyes. The next evening, after dinner, Walter entered the library. He felt uneasy. Zachary's desperate plea not to take away his dancing still echoed in his mind. Walter couldn't fully grasp what had triggered such anger within him. Perhaps it was the memories. Dancing reminded him of a time when life was easy and full of light, when his wife Clementine was still with him. In the library, he found Mrs. Jones waiting for him. She was sitting by the fireplace with a book in her hands. "Mr. Harris, can we talk about what happened yesterday?" she asked softly. He nodded silently and sat down in the chair opposite her. "I understand what you want to discuss, Mrs. Jones, and I would like to apologize to Beatrice for yesterday," Walter said. "I realize now that I overreacted. I shouldn't have been so harsh." "Well, Walter, you've expressed my thoughts exactly," Mrs. Jones replied. "I understand. You were terrified. It's not the dancing itself that worries you, but the fear that Zachary might grow into someone weak, windy and unreliable. someone far from who you envision, but I think you don't see the real situation because of your scare." "What do you mean?" Walter asked, his brow furrowed. "Haven't you noticed the changes in Zachary lately?" she continued, smiling. "He's become more vibrant, happier and less reserved. It's all thanks to Beatrice and her lessons. She has reignited a spark in him that was nearly lost." "I have noticed, Mrs. Jones," Walter admitted, "but I still don't understand why my son needs to dance. He should be studying, preparing for a serious future, for business, not flitting around like a butterfly." Mrs. Jones sighed almost inaudibly. "You know so little about Beatrice, Walter. You see her just as a cook, but she was a dancer, a very famous one." Walter raised his eyebrows in surprise. "A dancer? Beatrice? Impossible." "Quite possible. She was a true star of ballroom dancing, but then tragedy struck. A poorly secured display case fell on her, crushing her leg. Yes, her limp is almost invisible now, but she can't dance like she used to. No more stage, no more dancing." Suddenly, Walter remembered a newspaper article about a young ballroom dancing star whose career ended instantly. He never imagined it could have been Beatrice. "She went through a lot, but didn't give up. She found the strength to keep living. Ballroom dancing is not only about fluttering like a butterfly, but also about strength of character, discipline, and striving to win." "Think about it," said Mrs. Jones, and left the room. Walter gazed at the flickering flames in the fireplace, his mind filled with thoughts of Beatrice. He no longer viewed her merely as a cook. She was a woman with a challenging past and a heart brimming with kindness. It dawned on him like a revelation. This woman had provided his son with something he couldn't: warmth, support, and hope. Perhaps even a taste of genuine happiness. The following day, Walter decided to observe Beatrice and Zachary. He stood hidden in the shadows, watching their interaction closely. Beatrice guided Zachary gently, correcting his stance and demonstrating movements with a voice filled with tenderness and almost maternal warmth. Zachary beamed with joy, spinning around the room with laughter, as if the moment were his alone. Walter was amazed. He had never seen his son so happy. He understood then that Mrs. Jones had been right. Beatrice was offering Zachary more than just dance lessons. She was instilling in him a joy for life. At one point, Beatrice noticed Walter's silhouette. She paused and looked at him warily. Zachary almost turned and froze. Walter stepped out from behind the curtain and approached them. "Continue," he said calmly. Beatrice and Zachary exchanged glances and resumed dancing. Walter watched silently. With each movement, Zachary grew more confident. His shoulders straightened, and his awkwardness disappeared. Walter looked at Beatrice. She seemed to glow from within, and she passed that feeling on to his son. The pain and loneliness began to fade, replaced by a quiet, warm joy. That evening, after Zachary had gone to bed, Walter found Beatrice in the kitchen. "Beatrice, may I have a moment?" he asked. "I wanted to thank you for everything you do for my son." "I only want your boy to be happy, Mr. Harris," the woman smiled gently. "I saw how happy he was today, dancing with you. But you could be performing, shining on stage, dazzling the audience. Instead, you're here, in my home, cooking and dancing with my son." Beatrice looked down. "I don't regret anything, and I'm content with what I have in my life. It's not a sacrifice. I truly like Zachary. He has become like family to me." Walter stepped closer and took her hand. "I understand, Beatrice, and I am endlessly grateful to you." Several months passed after that conversation. The charity evening where Zachary was to perform, was approaching. The boy eagerly anticipated it, and Walter supported him wholeheartedly. Beatrice, however, grew quieter and more withdrawn. She avoided Walter, speaking to him briefly and almost distantly. An invisible wall seemed to have risen between them. Walter felt her pain and couldn't find a way to break the silence, which deeply hurt him. One evening after Zachary had gone to bed, Walter entered the kitchen to find Beatrice alone. She was sitting at the table, her face buried in her hands, her shoulders trembling slightly as she cried softly. "Beatrice, what's wrong?" he asked, quickly approaching her, his eyes filled with concern. "I can't do this any more, Mr. Harris," she whispered. "What do you mean?" he asked gently. "I can't handle it. It's too hard for me. It's too challenging to be near you. I want to quit, but only Zachary makes me stay here. It's too difficult, and I'm afraid." "Afraid of what?" he asked. "I'm afraid of my feelings toward you," she confessed. Walter knelt beside her and gently took her hands in his. "Beatrice, no need to be afraid. I also have feelings for you," he said, looking directly into her eyes with sincerity. "But you don't even know me." "That doesn't matter, because I know your heart, and I know that I love you," he said firmly. Beatrice began to cry even harder, and he embraced her, holding her close and stroking her hair. He whispered words of warmth and support, trying to calm her. "Give me a chance," he said. "Let me prove that I'm worthy of your love. Let me be there for you. Let me love you." At that moment, a sleepy Zachary entered the kitchen. He rubbed his eyes and looked at Walter and Beatrice in surprise. "What's going on?" he asked softly, yawning. Walter smiled, stood up and walked over to his son. "Nothing, son. Beatrice and I were just talking," he said. Zachary hugged his father, yawned again, and snuggled against him. "I love you both," he mumbled, already half asleep. Walter picked him up and carried him to his bedroom. Beatrice watched them, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. She realized that this was her home, her place. In this family she had found what she had long lost: love. The night of the charity event arrived. The tension in the hall was palpable. Walter adjusted his tie, feeling his heart pounding in his chest. He had come to support Zachary, but he knew this evening would be significant for him as well. Zachary, dressed in a formal suit, nervously fidgeted with his bow tie. Beatrice stood beside him, her hand resting calmly and confidently on his shoulder. She looked particularly beautiful that evening, dressed in an elegant, understated gown. Delicate and radiant, she seemed to glow from within. Walter couldn't take his eyes off her. Her eyes reflected both excitement and determination. "You'll do great, Zachary," she said. "Just dance from your heart." Walter approached them, trying to maintain his composure. "Good luck, son," he said, his voice steady despite his nerves. "I believe in you. You'll be wonderful." Zachary looked up at him with gratitude. For the first time, Walter felt like a true father, strong and supportive. Backstage, children in colourful costumes ran around, laughing and rehearsing their moves. Beatrice adjusted Zachary's bow tie, leaned down, and whispered something in his ear. He nodded, smiled, and, taking his partner's hand, stepped onto the stage without hesitation. Walter sat in the front row, his heart pounding with anticipation. He watched his son, believing in his success. As the music began, Zachary started to dance. His movements were not just skillful, they were filled with inner strength, passion, and inspiration. Leading his partner, he glided across the stage like a gentle breeze, expressing through his dance all the emotions within him: pain, hope, and love. Walter watched, holding his breath. Walter had never seen his son so inspired and free. As the music faded, the auditorium erupted in applause. Zachary bowed, his face radiant with joy. Walter stood up, clapping loudly, unable to hide his emotions. A lump in his throat made it difficult to breathe, but he smiled, proud as never before. Zachary ran into the hall and hugged his father tightly. "How did you like it?" he asked eagerly. "I loved it, son," Walter replied, holding him close. "You were magnificent." Beatrice approached them, tears shining in her eyes, but her face beaming with happiness. "He was wonderful, Walter," she said. "You should be proud of him." "I am, and I'm grateful to you for everything you've done for him," Walter replied, looking at her with genuine warmth. At this moment, Zachary hugged Beatrice tightly. "I love you so much. Thank you for teaching me." "And I love you, Zachary," she replied, holding him close. And Walter embraced them both. He felt it. This was happiness. Real, warm and alive. He could sense that past troubles were behind them, and ahead lay a new life, filled with love and harmony. But that is already a different story.